video, we have lowered the drop item multiplier and the gatherable item multiplier back down to 1 to simulate a normal world or a world that is being ran by a dedicated server. So this will apply to you all as well. Let's get into the video. Alrighty, today we have a twofer with Blazehowl and Blazehowl Noct. Blazehowl reads, while fighting together, grass pals drop more items when defeated, which goes really good for the Mammorests because around the lower to mid 30s, you're at the point to where you can kill Mammorests, especially around the beginning areas, pretty easily. So you can get a lot of pal oil from that. The Blazehowl Noct is fairly easily bred, if I'm not mistaken. It requires a fail bat and a Blazehowl, and Blazehowl's not too bad to breed for either. You can find them all over the backside of this volcano, and also at night you can find the Blazehowl Nocts back here. But if you want to breed for them, fail bat's only level 23, so you can go get her and breed her with one of the Blazehowls if you don't want to go over here at night. Blazehowl Noct, while fighting together, neutral pals drop more items when defeated. Go and look at our list in the pal deck. You could be looking for House for leather. You could go over into the desert area and go after the tuki birds, as I call them, and they'll drop gunpowder for you if you really want to farm them for that. You can look for elk and deer, or horn and leather as well, and the venison, which in later stages, once you get the kitchen unlocked, then that's when you can start making your higher quality meals, such as the Mocha Loco. Basically a 20% increase to attack power, so that's pretty helpful as well, because you'll just get a lot more of it. But most of the neutral pals that you're looking for in general are going to be dropping leather, so it's a leather grabbing machine when it comes to that. Even the Grintails drop high quality pal oil, and we'll end up testing them against Paldius as well, just to see how he does. But one of the main things with the Blazehowl is the Mammorest, because they drop leather, high quality pal oil, and the Mammorest meat. With Blazehowl Noct, probably really looking for just smaller end animals to kill to get either the meat off of them or leather or bone or something to that degree. A lot of options with that. Also, the Capri is really good for horn. You see them a lot. Get high quality pal oil and cotton candy from the Woolly Pops, wheat seeds and lettuce seeds from the Bristol. So there you go with that option. And if I'm not mistaken, the Masanda drops tomato seeds. That's what it is. And leather. So realistically, you have a wide variety of stuff between the grass and the neutral pals that you can actually go after and farm. They're pretty abundant in most areas. It just depends on where you're farming at. Usually, if you're like around in this area right in here, then you're going to be finding a lot of Mosandas and bee guards, Elizabeths, and they drop honey if you're trying to get some early stuff started. If you're over in this area, then you're going to be finding a lot of the Cinnamoths and other things of that nature that are considered to be grass pals as well, which she drops lettuce, wheat, and honey. Do you need these to be 4-star? I don't think so, but if you wanted a decent, ground pal or running around and stuff, they're not bad. So I guess what we'll do first is we'll take Blazehowl out. We'll have a flyer with us, and we'll also boost up his power, and we'll go kill some Mammorests, which probably one of the best areas to go looking for them are right in this area. They spawn pretty prevalent over here. Occasionally you'll see them spawn up where the boss version of them is at, but they're kind of far and few between over here. You might see them occasionally, but the most prevalent area that I see them a lot at is like over in this area, in this like little swampy area near Grintail. So we'll go over there first, kill off 20 of them and see what we get. All right, we're going to stop at 12 because I am already overweight. But out of 12 Mammorests, which didn't take us too long to get, we got 33 meat, 154 leather, and 152 high quality pal oil. That's a pretty decent amount. I mean, if you're doing like a no gold run or something like that, then you could definitely use this. I personally don't use gold much at all. It doesn't mean that I don't have it, because I sell off surplus all the time. I just don't focus on it. So now we'll switch over to the Blazehowl Noct, and we're just gonna take him out and start killing a bunch of neutral stuff to see what kind of material and stuff that we can get in a very short amount of time. We're gonna go over to the same area because it seems like there's a lot of elk and deer over there, other random assortments of dire howls, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna go back over in this same area and we're gonna kill off some stuff and things. All right, we've been out here for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, if that. We're already filled up what we can carry. But yeah, we went and killed Grintel as well, just to see what's up. Don't worry, that's definitely not what we got from that. But we got 20 chicken, so there's some sauteed chicken for some work speed stuff. We got some venison, we got a decent amount of leather, decent amount of horn. So yeah, all in all, and like I said, we were only out here for like 5 minutes. So in conclusion, is it worth it to upgrade either one of these guys? The gathering aspect of it, this really depends on how you're playing. If you're doing like a hard mode run, then I would say no. You're probably just as well off just to run around and get the stuff on your own. If you're running this as a speed run, no, because at that point you're trying to do completionists and they're kind of not really worth it at that point. If you're doing a no gold run, I'd say yes, because it's going to be beneficial for leather and high quality pal oil in mid to early stages, and in later game you'll be able to get a lot of loco moco going off of the venison that you get from the Blazehowl Noct. As far as combat ability, they're strong. They definitely have decent attack just off rip, but movement speed fairly slow. They're not the fastest. I'd say that they're on par with a Van Worm speed. Even with legend on them though, they don't pick up that much more speed, and it is only 15%, but at the same time it's something, and they're still fairly slow. Again, another cool looking pal. I mean, you can't deny that. Love the look of them. Big old beefy kitty with some horns and some flames coming off of them. But yeah, if you wanted to run some like kind of niche stuff, you could, but overall I'd say it's unnecessary to get these two up. We can kind of run their combat ability real quick and see what Blazehowl Noct does against ye old Paldius. So with some Hookerties backing him, he's at 1891. If we feed him some Loco Moco, yeah, 2,269. Well, there's another big disadvantage that we just figured out. If you ride on him, he does emit a heat signature, which then puts you at overheating status. So even with the PAL armor that I got going on, it's normal built, but it's not enough heat resistance. We'll have to put on a t-shirt, which I'm not even sure that'll be enough. Okay, that's just enough to keep us from burning up. So in colder regions, he wouldn't be that bad. But out in the desert, it's not quite hot enough for you to have to use an extra shirt with the PAL metal armor, but I'm not sure about anything else. We'll do some attacking, see how well we do against these two. Took some hits there, and we're out. Oh, yep. Oh, please don't do this. Come on. What are we doing here? Okay, so that went over about like a fart in a diving helmet. Are the Blazehowl and the Blazehowl Noct worth it? I'd say no. There are better alternatives to any of this stuff. Some huge disadvantages that they have is, one, every ground PAL that's not some sort of super fast on the ground in the first place is automatically going to be outperformed by anything that flies. Their partner skill, I think, could be worth it. It depends on how you're playing or what you're doing, but any of the stuff that they can get, you can buy. So if you're running a decent gold farm or even just selling excess of what you're already doing on a low scale, and you'll have enough gold to buy items that you're missing that these guys could easily get. Their combat ability, again, they're slow, they are mid at best, they have decent damage. Movement speed is necessary for lower tier pals when it comes to fighting the level 50 alphas because of their inability to take hits. So at that point, your best option is to have some sort of movement speed behind them to then be able to dodge the hits. But even with movement speed perks on this, I don't think you're going to get too much faster. After the 10-minute marker is literally me going through an overview of all the pals that I've done for the gathering type pals, I guess is what we'll call them. Said PAL allows said elemental PAL to drop more items. So if you want to watch the whole thing, that's what it is, but I'm just telling you right now, enjoy the video. In the final conclusion, when it comes to all of the gathering type PALs, which ones do I feel that are very worth it versus not bothering with at all? Well, when it comes to these two, they're out automatically from the gate. Polaris is really good for combat ability and has a decent amount of stamina for movement, and also can be boosted by the rubies or Kelpsie Ignises. Someone had mentioned earlier about once you get Jet Dragon that there's no point to have a Phalaris. Well, I don't think that's true because there's nothing to boost up Jet Dragon. Phalaris can outperform Jet Dragon with overall power, because even him sitting at this, you're never going to get him too much higher. If you bred him up and you got him right, you might be able to hit 2 grand with him, but if you bred a Phalaris up, then you're probably hitting more like 3 grand with boosters behind them. Cryolinks, nope, not at all worth it. No Dragon Pals. There's not enough Dragon Pals that drop enough material to consider him over a Pin King or the Orzik. Orzik is very much worth it because there's not very many ways to get PAL fluid in general. So there's no real way to buy PAL fluid, so you do have to farm that. So Orzik is necessary in that sense. To fully upgrade him, I mean, you're going to be breeding up a bunch of them anyway, so why not? But yeah, you'll probably just be as fine because, as we've stated before, at 0 stars, they're at 40%. Each star gives 10%, and then upwards to the maximum of 80% to double the drops that are dropped. So with the Gobfins, they each drop 1 apiece of PAL fluid. If you max them out, that's 80% of the time that you're doubling it. And that's a small enough area to where you could have a Gale Claw with you and be able to maneuver back and forth between a lot of them and not have to put Orzik back up and then get out the Jet Dragon to move around, or get out whatever you have as your movement animal. So he's definitely worth it in my opinion. Phalaris is worth it. Pin King, I don't know. You could use him for the Van Worms for bone, but you can buy bone. I usually buy bone myself. I don't look to harvest bone. You could use him for the Ormantide Ignis, but even with that, you're better off and you're almost getting the same amount as if you go after the Relaxosaurus, and the Relaxosauruses are more abundant in their territory. They come in bigger packs, so you can get more by just running Orzik at that point, and again running the Gale Claw to fly around. Menacing, definitely not worth it. There's not enough electric pals that drop a significant amount of stuff except for the U-Volt that would justify running him, and again, you can't ride him, so you have to have a flyer with him as well. So he's out. And then the Elephydra and the Elephydra Aqua. We've discussed this one in the Elephydra video. Elephydra, there's again just the presence of dark pals are so far and few between, and it's a very short time to go out and farm them. All the other stuff can be grabbed through other various means rather than going out at night. Plus, he's slow. He doesn't hit that hard. If you build him up and you get perfect IVs on him, again, I still don't think that he's worth it, because if you're riding him, which is one of the main advantages of having a flying rideable mount, his Mystic Whirlwind doesn't target correctly, and I think that would it'll probably be fixed eventually. I'm hoping that it is, but it's something that's not prevalent enough and talked about enough that it'll be fixed soon. Might be fixed later on. Little stuff like that with the targeting on that in particular stuff, but for him, dark pals, just again not enough stuff to worry about going after them. If they dropped small or medium pal souls more often, then I would say that he would definitely be worth it, especially for night hunting. But because of the drop rate not being increased, but rather the drop being doubled as far as the amount that gets dropped, it's still not worth it, because the Hookertees doesn't drop the technical manual enough to justify that. The Daydreams don't drop small pal souls enough to consider that, and the same goes with the Hell Zephyrs. They're kind of far and few between as well if you're hunting them. So to catch one even is already a pain. If you're hunting them, they drop medium pal souls, but they don't drop them enough to consider it being even useful. With the Elephydra Aqua, I would say that it's not really useful. The Pin King exists, and you might be able to, like I said, if you do perfect IVs on it, it could be kind of worth it, but there just are better combat water pals than it would be to use Elephydra. Like, for instance, the Sezaku Aqua is way better because it enhances water attacks, and if you put Lord of the Sea on there, there, then you're going to be getting a lot more damage from water attacks. So fire pals at that point are not even difficult to run against. If you want something that applies water damage, then you can use Azarobi. Now, even though that she's slow, if you use her and then stack Gobfins behind you with the overall ability, you can do 3 Gobfins, a flyer, and an Azarobi just to get to where you need to get to, and then use her to plop her on the ground, jump on her back, and then apply water damage to your attacks, such as the rocket launcher or the shotgun, any of your weapons that you're using. Then that's even more useful than the Hydra Aqua. Drop rate on fire pals again are kind of meh. I mean, the only one that's really worth going after a lot of is the Dormantite Ignis, and then you're kind of short selling yourself because they're all over that island. They spawn at a decent rate, but there's just better ways to go after high quality pal oil. Pin King, like I said, these guys here I'd say are 100% not worth it. Again, for niche circumstances, yes, or for certain play styles, yes, they are usable. They are worth to upgrade, but in my opinion, if you're just doing the normal gameplay, or even if you're doing like a hard mode or a speed run, they're just not worth it to go through. These 3, on the other hand, are good because you can get ice pals, are very prevalent in the northern area, so they'll drop more stuff, and that includes the ice Mammoris, which their spawn rate up in the ice is more so than it is in the regular Mammoris that's down in the southern starter areas, such as over in here, or where they spawn at even on the main island over here. So you can find them, but you're going to be running around on Blazehowl, and at that point it's not worth it. You could switch in and out like we did with Pin King, but then it's just why bother or waste that kind of time on something like that when you can just get a Valaris and ride around up in the ice area. And literally between this little strait right here is where I was finding all of those, and I got 20 of them, and we got like 200 and some high quality pal oil. When it comes to Orsic, you can't buy pal fluid, so he's really your only dude to go after other water pals to get a significant drop from them. So Gobfin territory is really good. And then you could also secondary use him to go after Relaxosaurus to get high quality pal oil. So he does 2 things that are good, that are worth it. And then Veilet, although some people might not see it this way, I think in my personal opinion that she is worth it, because when you're in later stages, she's a decent combat pal to have out. You do have to pair her with a flyer to be able to maneuver around the desert area and get enough stuff, but you can farm the Doomuds for Doomud meat in the later stages to then make Doomud chowder, which then gets you a 50% increase to work speed. There's only one other thing that gets you a 50% increase to work speed, and that is hamburgers. But with that, you would have to find a whole bunch of cows, which they don't spawn enough for me to actually consider them to be a reasonable farming animal. You could grow them, but then or you could hatch them, but then at that point you're kind of wasting out on cake just to get burgers going. So there's a better alternative, the Doomud chowder. Not only that, but if you go up into the bigger desert, then you could farm the crap out of the dig toys up there, because they spawn in groups of 2 or 3 and they drop more high quality pal oil. So yeah, all in all, as a final directive with the gathering pals, not very many of them are worth it. We have 3 that are, and the rest of them are kind of arbitrary. They can be used in certain instances, like we had stated with Ministing. Even though that he has the player increased defense, the defense is not enough to justify boosting him all the way up to that point, because it's just under 100 defense that you get extra. It's just not worth it. But like I said, if you wanted to go after some of these guys for niche things or just oddball stuff, by all means. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to play the game, but as far as like a standpoint of overall efficiency, then I would not be bothering with this entire group on this lower half. However, I would bother with these 3: Polaris, Orsic, and Veilet. Be prepared, because we got some fun stuff coming up where we're running some Grizzbolts, and we're going to be talking about weapon wielding pals and how to get their numbers up. We're going to be showing the best 5 pal combinations that you could have for your party, and there's a lot of them, which I had mentioned about doing this video earlier, but I wanted to get through this one first before we get into that. That way I have enough time to go through that. And if you notice through these down here, I have a good mix of stuff, and I'm breeding up some other things right there, and we got some other stuff going. But nonetheless, if you like my content, Please drop a sub if you like this video. Drop a like. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Yeah, other than that, keep your willy washed, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.